Now we will listen to Associate Professor Dr. Mr. KALELİODLU. I would like to read his biography. He is a professor at Mardin Artuklu University. He is one of the founding members of Turkish Society for Semiotic Studies and Turkish Journal of Semiotic Studies. He is also among the editors of journal Tamga Journal and the founding and executing committee members of Asian Semiotics International Association. His research interests comprise language and literature, culture, textual analysis and interpretation, narratology, linguistics, and semiotics. Along with his doctoral study in language and literature, he has given more space to semiotics with the multi- and transdisciplinary perspective. KALELİODLU is the author of many academic works related to semiotics, including books, book chapters, editorials, and articles. I leave the floor Associate Professor Dr. Murat KALELİODLU to make his presentation titled On Aesthetics and Meaning, The Search for Aesthetics in Yusuf Has Hacib's Kutadgu Bilig.
Thank you very much, dear Betül, for such a good presentation of me. Hello, everybody. And this is the title of my subject, Search for Aesthetic and Meaning in Yusuf Has Hacib's Kutadgu Bilig. Then accordingly, this is the outline, in fact. First of all, I will mention a kind of introduction, then notes on Yusuf Has Hacib and Kutadgu Bilig, and structural organization of the masterpiece, narrativity, concept, and aesthetic issues in that work, and conclusion and evaluation. In fact, Turkish culture has a multifaceted heritage with a rich history, traditional values, art, music, and folkloric elements. Turks, historical migrations, interactions with various civilizations worldwide, and internal dynamics have played an essential role in shaping today's Turkish culture and intellectual history. Then one of the most significant contributions to this process is the oral and written literary works. And the most of these are, the first one is the Orkhon inscriptions written in 732 in the Göktürk alphabet during the Göktürk state period. And the Orkhon inscriptions here, which consist of the monuments of Kültekin, Bilge Kağan, and Tonyakuk, and contain the precious information about the military and political history of Turks, and also carry important data about the value system developed by Turks up to the 8th century. Then the second one is the Divan-ı Lügat-ı Türk, the first comprehensive dictionary of Turkic languages. That was written by Kashgarlı Mahmud, and a Turkish Arabic dictionary during the Karahanate state period in Baghdad. Then the next one is, our main subject is Kutadgu Bilig, is a Middle Turkish masterpiece from the 11th century written by Yusuf Has Hacib, a Karahanate Turk, dedicated to the Eastern Karahanate ruler and Kashgar prince Tamgaç Ulu Burhan. Then these three masterpieces are defined as Turkish literature's the three great written monuments, in fact. And thus, Kutadgu Bilig is one of the most important works in Turkish literary history. Then Kutadgu Bilig has significantly contributed to the development of Turkish literature and cultural heritage. This work holds a great importance in terms of language and aesthetic. Then this study attempts to interpret Yusuf Has Hacib's artwork and ideas within the aesthetic value and meaning frameworks. Then, let me change it. Okay. As for the notes on Yusuf Has Hacib's and Kutadgu Bilig, Yusuf Has Hacib is one of the essential poets of the Middle Turkish literature. Then he is thought to have lived in the middle of the 11th century. And his best-known work is the poetic composition entitled Kutadgu Bilig. Yusuf Has Hacib is recognized as the author of the oldest surviving masterpiece from post-Islamic Turkish literature to the present day. Then within the context of the 11th century, Karahanit Turkish society, he is deemed to be a significant intellectual figure because creating such a work of art requires considerable knowledge and intellectual acumen. Then this requirement is attributed not only to Yusuf Has Hacib's robust educational background, but also to his persona, which is characterized by a keen observation of society, engagement with its issues, and an attempt to comprehend the contemporary events of his time. Then throughout his lifetime, Yusuf Has Hacib achieved the biggest and the most respected societal position through his knowledge, virtues, asceticism, and devotion. Influenced by the ideas of the Turki philosopher Farabi, who lived a century before Yusuf Has Hacib, he thoroughly studied Farabi's works and arguably comprehended his ideas better than the most. Then Farabi put reason, knowledge, and wisdom on the basis of the state and grounded reason and knowledge in the persons of those who govern the state. Then Yusuf Has Hacib, deeply understanding Farabi's thoughts, emphasized in Kutadgu Bilig through the characters that he created. Then as for the masterpiece, Kutadgu Bilig, Kutadgu Bilig is one of the oldest examples of Turkish literature and is also recognized as one of the first didactic works in the Turkic world. Then the work addresses ethical values, state, governance, and human relationships. Then in his composition, Yusuf Has Hacib advises on moral principles and good governance, offering guardians on the ideal societal order and state administration. And the fundamental issue emphasized here is the need for state leaders to embody a moral, educated, knowledgeable, cultured, patient, and merit-based approach. Then the construction of a society responsible for the welfare, order, and psychological, social, political, and economic development of a state governed by a leader possessing such virtues and qualifications will be aesthetic, good and valuable, of course. Then Yusuf Has Hacib's work is also considered a significant example of Middle Turkish with its profound contributions to Turkish cultural heritage and the intellectual history of Turkish thought, which is highly important linguistically and artistically. Then understanding the work and accomplishing the objectives of the study necessitates the preliminary comprehension of the concept of Kutadgu Bilig bestowed by Yusuf Has Hacib as the title of the work. The name Kutadgu Bilig here, then which Yusuf Has Hacib gave to his work as a whole means knowledge that gives happiness. Then Kutadgu Bilig is a masterpiece written with the aim of showing people the way to be blessed in both worlds, in the full sense of the word here. It's an important work that emphasizes the mentality, knowledge, and virtues necessary for the ideal organization of individual, community, and state life, which are closely interconnected with each other, and how to obtain and use them. Then the word kut here, which is mentioned as a key concept, has old and new meanings. Then the kut has acquired different senses over the historical process, such as state, fortune, bliss, happiness, greatness, rank, position, wealth, and superiority. Then the ancient Turks' understanding of the state is equivalent to the concept of political power, then which is based on the universal sovereignty and the right to rule the world through God's endowment of kut. Then, moreover, in Turkish state tradition, the concept of political authority or political power is identified with the concept of kut. Accordingly, the notion of kut equivalent to the notion of power, is one of the Turkish language's oldest and most widespread cultural concepts. Then, in this framework, it's possible to explain the meaning of the phrase Kutadgu Bilig as knowledge that gives sovereignty authority by grounding it on the, let's say, first meaning of kut, continuously used since ancient Turks. Then in this context, Yusuf Has Hacib expresses this situation in his narrative, such as, "O Khan with the state, God has granted you sovereignty. Express gratitude for this blessing by mentioning God's names thousands of times. Then hence, kut for the ruler is the power of sovereignty granted by God, while for the people, it's the fulfillment of living in peace and security." Then Yusuf Has Hacib here gave the name Kutadgu Bilig to the work. Additionally, it's explicitly stated that the author's purpose in writing the book is to bestow happiness and provide guidance to the reader. In this regard, Yusuf Has Hacib's fundamental aim in writing Kutadgu Bilig is to present necessary information for everyone, from the highest authority to the lowest level individual, to be happy in both worlds and the other world, of course. Then explaining the actions to be taken and the methods and paths to be followed in his masterpiece. Then as for the next subject, here, the structural organization of Kutadgu Bilig, in the work of art consisting of 6,645 couplets in total, Yusuf Has Hacib arranged the rims of some couplets in quatrains, incorporating various sound and word games and alliterations. Then the structural organization of Kutadgu Bilig is highly remarkable. Although the main structure is in the form of a narrative in verse, the mutual conversations of the characters give the work an authenticity of representation. Then the work is a representational one, with the character symbolizing certain concepts. Accordingly, the text is a verse masnavi in the style of half narrative and half representation. Then one of the, as you see here, one of the distinctive features of Kutadgu Bilig is that it is a didactic word. Then according to the table here, each of the four characters in this instructive work is also a representative of a concept. The first one is the Khan, Kutadgu, who is the head of the state, is the representation of justice and Töre. Then the Khan is always the one who ensures the accurate implementation of the Töres and laws. Then Yusuf Has Hacib states that this is the right Töre that I call Kutadgu. Then the second one is the second character, Aytoldu. The vizier is the representative of fortune and happiness. Then the author states that what I call Aytoldu is happiness in his masterpiece. And the third one is Ögdülmüş, is the son of the vizier. Then after his father's death, he takes his father's place at the request of the Khan. That Ögdülmüş is the person who represents wisdom and intelligence. And Yusuf Has Hacib states that wisdom, its name glorifies the person. Then the last character is Ögdülmüş, is a dervish and a relative of Aytoldu and Ögdülmüş. He represents the fate and the end of life. Yusuf Has Hacib states for Ögdülmüş, it is interpreted as fate by me. Then Kutadgu Bilig conveys the qualities that should be found in those who govern the state, with the conversations and events that take place between these four characters, by narrating how the individual, society, and state relations will be arranged. Then, due to such qualities, the work proceeds in the form of a fluent dialogue. Then, the main themes of the masterpiece are advice, state administration, ethics, knowledge, and wisdom. In addition, it emphasizes how various state officials should be and defines the necessary qualities for each. Then in this framework, Kutadgu Bilig preaches goodness, beauty, virtue, and rationality in accordance with the social values of the ancient Turkish tradition, while emphasizing the meaning of human life and the social responsibilities of human beings. Then, as for the narrativity, concepts, and aesthetic values, Yusuf Has Hacib's symbolic description of the universe's structure, balance, and order, in which everything in nature comes together harmoniously, also depicts the ideal state order and the ideal human being. Then, in some parts of the narrative, the issue of by whom and how order in the state will be maintained proceeds with symbolic narratives. Then all these narratives are realized through the four main characters, as we said before, and the concepts that these characters undertake. In the book, those characters convey how good, that is, happiness and power, should be achieved. Then the framework of the concept of happiness here is the happiness that takes place in material and spiritual, that is, earthly and unearthly dimensions. Then it is not only about physical pleasure and happiness. Then therefore, in Kutadgu Bilig, the necessary knowledge is given on achieving happiness in the world and the hereafter, from birth to death, and achieving salvation in both universes. That the concrete, then as for Kutadgu, who represents, in fact, töre, love, and justice in the masterpiece, then the concrete characteristics of the main narrative protagonist, Kutadgu, who represents the Eastern Karakhanate ruler Tamgaç Ulu Tamgaç Burakan, also refer to the required properties of a person who will govern the state. Then the place of the töre concept represented by Kutadgu, then in whom the concepts of justice and love are valued and is of great importance in the Turkish cultural tradition. Then because the töre is the reflection of the understanding of expression, as the state goes, töre remains. İl gider, töre kalır. Then which has been deeply rooted the Turks within the text. Then, according to Gökalp, then töre encompasses not only written laws, but also unwritten customs of state administration. Then töre is also related to philosophy, law, politics, morality, religion, and social life. According to, again, Gökalp, il means state and töre means law. So it's natural that these two words are often mentioned together. However, the meaning of the word töre is not as limited as that of word law. Then in addition to written laws, unwritten customs are also included within töre. Then, moreover, besides legal traditions, töre, there are also religious and moral customs entitled töre. Then, therefore, the Turkish töre is the totality of all regulations that ancient Turks inherited from their ancestors. Then, it can also be conceivable that the word töre is derived from the same root as the word Turk. Then the word Turk may also mean töreli. Then the word Turk is derived from the töre here accordingly. Then these principles of custom and law, which had penetrated into the very being of the Turks, were the only way of governing and sustaining the society. Then therefore, the concept of töre is included a large part of Yusuf Has Hacib's work. Then Kutadgu Kutadgu's execution of fair, honest, and right, this, let's say, emphasizes the concept of Torah as an isotopy in the text. And the fact that Kutadgu never sleeps and is always busy with the state affairs in the narrative is important in terms of the fulfillment of the Torah. Then for this reason, it is the most important factor for the ruler of the state to pay attention to justice and merit for the people to live in prosperity, not to give opportunity to people and events that will cause chaos in the society, and to ensure the continuity of the Torah, both in protecting an existence of the state and in ensuring its continuity. Among these descriptive qualities of Kutadgu, there are various aspects such as great and wise men, long-lived, famous throughout the world, honest, wise, moderate, and generous, knowledgeable, benevolent, and merit-oriented. Then the first feature of the depiction of Kutadgu is that he is wise and thus ruled for many years. Then it reflects a view that the rulers in the Turkish state understanding should be knowledgeable people. Then the work also emphasizes the importance of knowledge and wisdom. However, this knowledge, of course, is not superficial and disconnected from the life, but the deep and functional knowledge obtained under the guidance of life experience and reason. Then, the scriptural characteristics attributed to Kutadgu are also important for the sound maintenance of the relations between the ruler and the ruled, and between the ruled and the state. Then the ties between the people who know that their ruler has the mentioned characteristics here, and the state are regularly strengthened, and possible credit problems, insecurity, and turmoil are eliminated. Then this situation facilitates the Khan's work in forming social consciousness and governing the country. As for the second character, I told you, that represents fortune and happiness. Having heard of the Khan's reputation, intelligence, knowledge, and gentle attitude towards society, I told the desires to serve him. Then the fact that I told you, who represents the concept of Kut, wants to serve Kutadgu as a symbolic representation of the happiness and satisfaction created in the society ruled by the Khan, who adopts a policy aimed in maintaining social harmony. Then here, the horse, clothes, and weapon that Aytollah took with him when he came to the Khan symbolized the duties of the state as the provider of political power. Then the horse signifies the way to be followed in the administration of the state and the Torah. Then the rope signifies to make the people prosperous and to serve the public, and the weapon signifies to possess military power and thus ensure the security of the people by combating internal and external enemies. Then Aytollah here defines the qualities of excellent service as sustainability, honesty, and loyalty. Then, in return for a service adorned with these qualities, the statesman will be satisfied in two ways. Then the first of these is the material one. Because of his sustainable and valuable services, Aytollah will gain prestige in the eyes of both the ruler and the society. Then it will bring him to distinguished position for statesmanship. Then the second is the spiritual here. In addition to these spiritual gains, Aytollah will achieve his wishes by gaining material gain. Then Aytollah's primary goal is to achieve material and spiritual happiness due to these actions. In this way, the concept of Kut, which gives its name to the text, finds its meaning here. And the next character, the third one, is Ögdülmüş. That represents wisdom and intellect here. in the masterpiece. The representative of wisdom, Ögdülmüş, having entered to serve the Khan, is constantly engaged in the affairs of the government. Then the state affairs are well organized, and the Khan continuously raises his status. Then the critical factor in Ögdülmüş's progress is wisdom, which is the main driving symbolic aspect in state affairs here. Then another symbolic expression of the importance of wisdom is that after Ögdülmüş's performance in state affairs, the sovereign granted him a title, seal, horse, and kaftan, which are accepted as the signs of the sultanate. Then, first of all, Kutadgu and Ögdülmüş question what wisdom is. Then there is an exchange of ideas about the qualities that those ones responsible for the state affairs should have. Then all these occur in dialogues. Then Ögdülmüş explains the qualities of wisdom to Kutadgu. While describing it, he uses personifications and attributed a set of qualities to the wisdom. Then according to these qualities, wisdom is a well-respected, calm, competent, mature, dignified, and young person overcoming complex texts, given complex tasks here, given importance to rightness and honesty. Then the central phenomenon that this person points to is the notion of state administration based on wisdom. And the last character is Ögdülmüş, that represents fate, that is man's ending in this world.
Can you hear me, Mr. Kalelioğlu?
Yes, yes.
Sorry for interrupting you, but you have 5 minutes left. Please summarize your paper.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I will try to finish. Thank you very much. And Ögdülmüş is a deeply spiritual character. He abstains from worldly affairs and devotes himself to worship. Then the Khan realizes Ögdülmüş's wisdom and spiritual power. Then he searches for ways for him to work with him in the palace and invites him to the palace through Ögdülmüş. Then, however, he rejects the sovereign's invitation. This is because he cannot perform his worship properly by being involved in society. For Ögdülmüş, who emphasizes the transience of the mortal world at every opportunity, the life to be strived for is the life in the hereafter. Then to be able to do justice to the afterlife, and it's necessary to keep away from people and consequently from society. Then addressing life's material and abstract aspects, Ögdülmüş first mentions material wealth. Then he believes humankind came to the world naked and will go naked. Then he thinks that material wealth has no benefit for humanity. Then it's only a temporary richness, and whatever becomes in the world remains in the world. Indeed, no matter how materially rich a person is, that will eventually separate them from each other. Then as a result, when a person passes onto the eternity, he cannot take anything with him except his earnings from worship. Then, in conclusion, when we evaluate the work within the framework of its contextual structure and composition, we can see that Yusuf Has Hacib reflects the language and stylistic features of his period by skillfully using Turkish in his masterpiece. Then the work stands out with its versification, is adorned with poetic expressions, and draws attention with its rhyme and rhymic devices. Then in this respect, the aesthetic use of language is one of the main elements that fosters the work's literary merit. Then Kutadgu Bilig, in addition, is an exemplary work with its representation at the intersection of aesthetic and moral values, and the richness of thought and transmission in its content. Then the work also draws attention by reflecting moral values that always encouraged the good and the beautiful in terms of aesthetic. Then the combination of the artistic pursuit of beauty and the moral recommendations provides the reader with aesthetic pleasure and moral guardians. Then this work, in which aesthetic and ethics complement each other with perfection in presenting the beautiful and the good, also shows that art can assume a social role. Then the moral values concerning the ideal state, ideal social order, and ideal human being are exhibited in the work through advice, stories, proverbs, and tales conveyed in dialogues. Then this contextual richness in the artwork's fiction boosts, in fact, the work's aesthetic diversity and offers a profound experience to the reader. Then Kutadgu Bilig is a work written to show how to be followed to achieve happiness in both worlds. It's a philosophy of life that analyzes the meaning of human life and determines the role and duties in social and the state, the society and the state. Then Yusuf Has Hacib has masterfully elaborated on the mentality, knowledge, and virtues necessary for the ideal organization of individual, community, and state life. That's closely connected, and how to obtain and implement them. Then, despite being written in the 11th century, his work and guiding thoughts haven't lost value until today. Then, with this feature, Yusuf Has Hacib's recommendations preserve their universal character and are still valid for today's state leaders and people. Then, when we evaluate the masterpiece within the framework of designing the ideal state structure and growing the ideal human being, Yusuf Has Hacib has put forward the qualities of the ideal in context of life, society, human, and state, which are also valid in real life. Then, accordingly, he stated that statesmen should have the qualities mentioned earlier to sustain the society's welfare, peace, and tranquility. Then, within this context, Yusuf Has Hacib frequently employed expressions in accordance with the Turkish töre and way of life, revealing the characteristics of the Turkish state in terms of administration, justice, sense of law, and lifestyle. Then, although the Turks had recently converted to Islam, and Yusuf Has Hacib was a Muslim, he never proposes a state under Sharia law in his work. Then in this case, it is possible to say that we are faced with symbolic representations of the concept of secularism here. Then it is obvious evidence that the concept of secularism and the form of government, which have been given importance in Turkic states for centuries, have an essential response in the state and the people. Then, although willpower, that is Kut, given to Khan in the work is divinely originated, the ruler's personality is not sacred. Then he has deities such as administering justice, protecting the unity and the solidarity of the state and nation, and ensuring the nation's welfare. Then it's possible to relate these deities with the tasks in Kutadgu Bilig. In this regard, the deities assigned to the Khan can be listed as implementing the custom and not violating it, ensuring justice and unity, maintaining order and safety, educating the society, feeding the hungry, and dressing the naked, enriching the nation, and serving the state and the nation without considering self-interest, increase the population and the lands, and meet the military's demands. These tasks, determined centuries ago, are still valid for today's politicians. And this has given Yusuf Has Hacib's masterpiece, Kutadgu Bilig, the quality of a political treatise of all ages. In conclusion, Yusuf Has Hacib's Kutadgu Bilig is a rich research object that can be analyzed through many theories and approaches comprising politics, society, culture, aesthetics, and semiotics. Then the combination of aesthetic and moral values which come to the fore in forming the ideal state and ideal human being, and which always prioritize the good and the beautiful, together with the features of the language, underlines the artistic importance of the artwork. Then, based on all of these features, we can rightfully say that Yusuf Has Hacib, who succeeded in leaving his mark on Turkish culture and Turkish intellectual history centuries ago, and his work Kutadgu Bilig rightfully holds its place among the significant works of Turkish and world literature. Thank you very much for listening.